I remember coming out of the dressing room somewhere on the road with Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it was like the stage was here, and there was a big area, and then the Tuckers, or the Skynyrd was down there, and Grinderswitch's dressing room was over here. And I came out, and I was walking towards Thumper. What's his real name, the bass player? Leon, yeah. Anyway, he was walking towards me. I went, "Hey, Thumper, how you doing?" And he pulled a gun out. I went, "What the hell?" And then he shot me.
Hey y'all, this is Chris Hicks and welcome to the Southern Rock Insider. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe and click the notification bell. It's time to rock Southern style. The Southern Rock Insider. Chris Hicks for the Southern Rock Insider here, y'all. We've got a great show for you today. Well, that train Grinderswitch is running right on time. The boys are cooking up in Carolina. People down in Florida can't be still. Old Lynyrd Skynyrd picking down in Jacksonville. Speaking of Grinderswitch, Ricky Burnett from Grinderswitch is with us today. Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Doing good, well.
All right. Thanks for coming to see us, man. We wanted to have you come in today and talk to you about some old days and some new days and anything else that comes to mind.
I have a little story about that song.
Okay.
Charlie Daniels had cut a rhythm track. You know, he wanted, so they were saying, well, you need a fiddle song. He had that track playing fiddle on it, no words. There was always a pegboard thing, you know, poster board thing in the hallway as you were walking, as you was walking towards the studio. And somebody posted a picture on there and a story about Grinderswitch, and the headline of it was, "The train to Grinderswitch is running right on time." I'm sure that when he came out and took a break, he saw that, and he went, the Tuckers down in Carolina? Yeah, that'll work.
Yes, sir. How about that?
And Taz, that played keyboard with Charlie, they were playing here, and we met up someplace. And at that point, I was doing stuff here at the studio, had keys and all. I said, you know, I'll take you in and show you this place, see what you think, bring back some memory. And we walked by that poster, was still hanging up in there. And I said, "Do you think that's what happened?" He said, "Makes a lot of sense to me."
It's got to be. Surely it is.
Yeah, it really does.
Which is the name Grinderswitch Band? Is it from the town in Tennessee, fictitious, or is it? It is, okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's where Minnie Pearl always said she was from.
Right. So tell me your first memory of coming to Macon, if you can reach back. You know, your first time coming in town.
Yeah, coming to Macon. Well, it was Les Dudek. Les is a really fine guitar player, but we grew up in the same neighborhood in Auburndale, Florida. And he came up here and became friends with Dickie Betts and was recording, which one? Oh, Brothers and Sisters album. And anyway, he also was friends with Joe Dan and mentioned to Les that he would like to start a band. Joe Dan did. And Les said, "Well, I've got two guys down in Florida, Larry Howard and Rick Burnett." And Joe Dan called me up and said, "Would you like to come up here? I'm thinking about starting a band." Yeah, you know. So we jumped in my car one evening and drove up here. And what was really terrible is this horse that Joe Dan had. They had a horse out at the brother's farm, had thrown him into the barn and broke his collarbone. So he was like, you know, let's go see if we can play. You know, we came down to the studio and went into the barbershop over there. And the brothers were recording Brothers and Sisters that night. They were recording Ramblin Man, as a matter of fact. But so we went over there, and Joe Dan did the best he could, you know, with a busted collarbone playing bass. And that was my first day here in Macon, Georgia, right there. And got to see the brothers record Ramblin Man, because Les played, you know, on the end of the song, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that's Les. And that was pretty cool.
Pretty eventful first day in town.
Yeah, it really was, you know. And eating at the H and all that stuff, so that was pretty cool. Meeting Dickie, I've never met him before.
As Paul Hornby puts it, to the Shuffle Kings. He said, "Y'all the best shuffle of any band ever." You know, I have to agree with it. Yeah. Tight shuffles is what I think of. I think of Grinderswitch. And
I appreciate that.
what would be one of your few favorite songs of all the years, all the records you made with Grinderswitch?
I don't know. I always liked Higher Ground, and that was on the third album, I think, and Pulling Together. that was a really driving record, man. That was just really pumped, you know.
Here it is, right?
Yeah. Let me see that. Is that all on there? There was a lot of good stuff on there. Yeah.
Steve Miller was in the
that's
band.
another good song.
I thought he was a great addition to the band.
Steve?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Just a
Yeah.
great player, man.
He sure
great
was.
player. Yeah, I like Higher Ground. And then on the Red Wing album, I liked Taste of Love. And that had a...
It would be this one right here.
That was a song that Steve had written, Taste of Love. And we were practicing it. And I was playing more like just a straight groove on the drums. And I had this idea in my head, and I was using like a click and playing, you know, tom-tom type thing. And I was going, I said, I'm going to overdub that. And Larry said, no, man, that's what you need to play when we do it. And I went, really? Okay. So we started off like that, and it just created this swampy, and Drew brought out his slide and went, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
And it just kind of got this eerie feeling and all, and it just changed the whole thing up. It was pretty neat.
Well, you know, there's lots of Southern rock stories and stuff like that. Maybe you can confirm or deny this one. I've heard years ago that the equipment on the cover of Fillmore East that the brothers are sitting on was gifted to Grinderswitch by the guys and refurbished to look like, you know, feed sacks or something like that. Is that story true?
Yeah, it was, you know, Joe Dan was a roadie for the brothers, and he knew the guys that were the road crew and with the Grateful Dead. And they had a thing where they were building their own cabinets called Olympic, I forget. But we had all that, just all these cabinets, and played somewhere, and Dickie and some of the other guys saw them and said, we'll trade you our amp line for that.
Really?
You know, hey, that's a great deal. We'll do that. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to pay for this.
Right.
You know, we got this. So two of our roadies, Tori and Terry, stripped all that, you know, that plastic black stuff that was on the Marshall cabinets and sanded them and stained them, and then got old burlap bags and made them fit into there, and then trimmed it all out in rope. In fact, there's one of them at the big house.
Okay.
And it's said to be one of Dwayne's cabinets. And that's why it's at the big house.
Gotcha.
So you can go there and see it.
So I see a lot of connections with the Allman Brothers, lots of things intermingling between the bands.
Yeah,
through the
they
years.
did, yeah.
So how about Paul Hornby? Let's talk about him for a minute. Producer, recorded y'all's first record and many others, right?
We lived out in Centerville at the time, and we were writing and working up songs. And Joe Dan thought, well, why don't we go down to the studio and get Paul to help us record something that we can have something to go out and maybe get some gigs with, you know. So Paul went for it. In fact, he liked it a lot. And he said, took what he recorded up to Phil, and Phil said, have them play at Grant's where I can hear them live.
So that was my next question. Did y'all get signed to Grant? So you kind of did, okay.
Yeah, pretty
How
much
about
it went like that.
That's great.
And so we signed with Phil and, you know, Paragon, and Phil was the personal manager for the band. And then after that, Paul would come out to Centerville, and where we had a room set up with egg cartons all over the place where we could get in there and just really go. But he would come out and play keyboards because we wanted him to play keyboards on the record, which he did on the first and the second. Yeah, those two albums, because we had Steve Miller on the third album. But that was fun. He added some things on some of those songs that gave them a different feel that we, you know, hadn't thought about. On the end of Homebound, he added Coda.
Coda, okay.
Yeah, he did that, and I'm like, man, that sounds really neat. I'm glad you did that, you know.
He's a great piano player, organ player, that's for sure.
Yeah, he's got good ears and all that kind of stuff.
He did the same thing with the Marshall Tucker Band in their early days, and they played a lot of stuff. So you still live in the Macon area, right?
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
I sure do.
So it became your home after all these years. That's just something.
Yep. Married and settled down, had kids, and now I've got grandkids. And we went to Europe in 1976, and with Marshall Tucker Band. There you go. And on all those shows that we played, they would set up a dressing room for the Tuckers, a dressing room for Grinderswitch, and then a room for the drummers, me and Paul Riddle, to get in there and bang away on practice pads, whatever, you know. So anyway, we got to Germany. First gig we were going to play, and we had no idea what this was going to be like, right? So me and Paul were in there just, framming away on these things, you know. We stopped, you know, and we were talking, and he goes, well, this seems like pretty normal, you know. And we went, we're in Germany, man, you know. And it was just like, yeah, I mean, we were like, what is it going to be like when we go out there, you know? And it was just like in the United States. It was no different whatsoever. It was really great. But another thing that happened over there was that we had no idea. None of us in Grinderswitch, and the record company never mentioned it to us either, that people over there knew who we were better than in the United States, because there was a guy on Radio Free Europe, or whatever it's called over there, John Peel, right? Had picked Pickin' the Blues, and that was his theme song. And he played it every night, you know, through his show, you know. We had no idea. So they went, yeah, Grinderswitch, we know who you guys are. Really? That's great.
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Bonnie was pretty easy to work with most of the time. We got along real good. And what she had always said, you know, I knew Bonnie before that time, you know, and she always would say, I want to be the chick singer in Grinderswitch. Well, I'll go, that ain't gonna happen. But anyway, no, I didn't say that to her.
Right.
But she is a good lady. Oh man, she's a great singer. My God. You know,
Well, how about this? Tell me a little bit about Les Dudek.
Les
You didn't
Dudek?
go way back. Yes, I'm a big fan of his music, and
Yeah, great.
he's appeared on different things through the years. When did you guys start playing together?
As little kids. In fact, I had a Silvertone.
Mm-hmm.
I had a Silvertone guitar, and Les had something else. But we used to get in his utility room and play guitar. And he said, you taught me how to play Walk, Don't Run. I went, I never taught it. He said, no, just the chords, you know. I said, oh, okay. I remember coming out of the dressing room somewhere on the road with Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it was like the stage was here, and there was a big area, and then the Tuckers, or the Skynyrd was down there, and Grinderswitch's dressing room was over here. And I came out, and I was walking towards Thumper. What's his real name, the bass player? Leon, yeah. Anyway, he was walking towards me. I went, hey, Thumper, how you doing? And he pulled the gun out. I went, what the hell? And then he shot me with the freaking gun. It was a damn blank gun, but I hit the deck, you know. And I went, you son of a bitch, you know. I started running. He took off, you know. I was so mad. And they eventually took the gun away from him because he was scaring the hell out of people, you know.
So we're going to talk about Charlie Daniels for a minute now. You all know Charlie Daniels from the Charlie Daniels Band, Volunteer Jam. Rick, you got a Charlie Daniels story you'd like to share with us?
Great Charlie Daniels story. We were going someplace, and Charlie had a scenic cruiser, Greyhound scenic cruiser that looks like a bus, and then it has a thing that goes up with window. Anyway, that was his bus, and you couldn't miss it because nobody had one at that time, but Charlie. And we saw it. So we went, oh, let's go see Charlie and see what's going on. So we pulled in, and we walked into the center area where the pool was, and we saw Freddy Edwards, long blonde-haired drummer, and he's standing up there. And we walked up and we went, what's going on, Freddie? And he just went, he didn't say anything. We went, what the hell? And we looked, and Charlie was peeking out the curtains. He opened the door, come here. Okay. So anyway, we all go in, and we said, what the hell are you doing? He said, Eddie he's a decoy. He said, these rednecks were making fun of him earlier, telling him he looked like a girl. He said, you guys can help out. He said, when those guys come up here, we're all going to jump out this room and beat the hell out of them. We said, okay, yeah, that'll be great. But he was peeking out the thing. Come here. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rick, I'm sure there's tons of memories back through the years thinking of playing, but when you think back, What's some of the highlights? What's one of the highlights?
We did a lot of gigs with Marshall Tucker, and one of my favorite gigs was in New York City at Central Park. It was just a beautiful day, and the sound system was great, and we went out, played a nice set and all, and it was just a really nice day for a gig. It was beautiful. That's a memorable thing.
Yeah. So I got a question for you about your drum kit. The motorcycle front end, how did that start, and do you still use that?
Jerry Martin, I don't know how it happened, but I was at his house, and he had a windshield and a headlight and a part of the grill off the front of a motorcycle. You know, I like to take that and mount it on the front of my bass drum. He goes, that's a great idea, you know. And I said, what if I got a seat too? And the Harley seat with the, you know, the whole chrome thing, you know. He said, I got all that, man, you know. He said, you can take it, and I did, and I mounted it on the front of the drum. Road crew hated that, you know. More to set up. We're dragging that crap around, you know, having to set it up every night. No, I don't have it anymore.
Okay.
Because I'm my own road crew. I don't want to drag it around, you know.
I thought it did fit you great though, with the shuffles that you played. It looked like you were kind of riding back there. So we got 2 Grinderswitch albums here. So Rick, I got a question for you. I noticed that one of them.
Okay, but wait a minute.
Okay.
You need to go to the first album.
First album. Okay. That's right. Start at the beginning.
Yeah, that's how it
One.
started.
Here we go.
See,
So first album here, you see Grinderswitch, one word.
Right.
Here we see Grinderswitch, 2 words. Can you explain?
As best I can remember, it was supposed to be 2 words, or we thought it was. At least Joe Dan did. He was the one that wanted to call the band Grinderswitch, and we all agreed to it. And Joe Dan was head man. You know, he kept us all together. He was the daddy. But we went into the Capricorn office downstairs where Bunky's office was to see the first pressing of the album, you know, because all we'd seen and heard was the white copy. Mm-hmm. And my God, Joe Dan went ballistic. He went, oh, this is not right. I'm like, looks good to me. What's the problem? He said, it says Grinderswitch. And I went, yeah. He said, nobody's going to know how to even pronounce it. It's supposed to be 2 words, Grinderswitch. They got it all run together. Yeah, could be. But that's the way it was. So the first few records were that way. And then when we got more control of it ourselves, we went just 2 words.
Let's talk about some of the Grinderswitch guys, if you will. How about Drew Lumbar?
Drew is a great guy. Here's another story. We were living on Pierce Avenue. It was just the 3 of us, me, Larry, and Joe Dan. And we needed a lead guitar player and somebody that could sing. So Joe Dan got the idea that we needed to go, me and him, needed to go to Miami and pick up Dickie's motorcycle. And on the way, we would stop in Jacksonville and go around to all these clubs to try to find a lead guitar player that Joe Dan knew. And we went to several of these funky bars in Jacksonville. I mean, I thought we were going to get killed. You know, I had really wild, long hair, and Joe Dan, you know, we were both like, made 90 pounds, you know, we didn't weigh anything. But anyway, we drove all the way down there, got the motorcycle, and came back. And the guy we were looking for, Drew Lumbar, was asleep on the couch at the house. He had met Larry, had gone down to Grant's to see, he didn't know, just to hang out, and met Drew. And told him, hey, you know, come back. And Joe went, that's the guy! That's the guy we're looking for right there! So it all worked out. It's kind of a destiny thing.
If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it all works out, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Okay, how about Larry Howard? Let's talk about him for a second.
Larry and I grew up pretty much in the same neighborhood. You know, I mentioned Les, and Larry was right there. He played trombone in the school bands, and I knew him from that because we played in the Dixieland band. He played trombone, I played drum. But then I had a band called the United Sounds, and we needed a lead guitar player because we didn't have one. We had a keyboard and bass and drums. We needed a lead guitar player. And Larry had been playing guitar and taught himself how to play Malagueña. And then he started really writing more. even before Grinderswitch was together, we lived together, and he was writing songs and stuff at that time. So he had quite a bit of stuff together by the time we got here to get going with Grinderswitch and all.
Well, we've mentioned Joe Dan a bunch of times, but let's talk about him for a minute. How did you meet Joe Dan, Petty?
Through Les. He introduced us together and all. And
would you say Grinderswitch is kind of his vision of the band? He kind of come up with it?
Exactly, yeah. He's the one that had it all planned in his mind, you know. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of rolled with it, you know. And he cracked the whip for a long time, you know. Lots of times he would get the road crew to unload, like we were on the road and we're in a motel, a day off or something. He'd get the road crew and we'd rent a room, not a room, what do you call it, where you have conference rooms and stuff. He'd rent one of those, or they'd let us use it or whatever, and they'd bring the equipment and set it up, and we would rehearse, you know.
How about Steve Miller? I know he was a little bit later on in Grinderswitch, but I always thought he was a great addition to the band.
Well, Joe Dan had run into him, and I remember him too playing with Steve, not Steve Miller, Alvin Bishop is who he played with. And we saw him in the warehouse down in New Orleans, and Joe Dan approached him about, you know, you might be interested in leaving Alvin, and he was. And he was living in Iowa at the time, had a herd of chickens. He was always telling the story about the herd of chickens, and it got real cold and it froze to the ground and died.
Ooh, that's cold, man.
Yeah.
So life after Grinderswitch, what's that been like for you, Rick?
Well, it was, you know, I had gotten married and had kids, and I was gone all the time, and I was, you know, missing my wife, missing seeing the kids grow up. And the band was not doing a whole lot, you know, so I decided to get out. And, you know, it was a rough decision to try to make, you know, after all those years. Those guys were more family than you can imagine, you know. We were very tight. We were on the road all the time and traveling. And anyway, it was just a hard decision. And I left the band, and we still did some shows and stuff together, but, you know, it just kind of drifted apart. In fact, probably the only band to break up with a recording contract. We had a recording contract at the time, but, you know, we just never did anything more.
Rick, I want to thank you for coming and being with us today, man. It's a pleasure having you. A true piece of Southern rock landscape is Rick Burnett, the Grinderswitch guys, and we're glad to have him here. And thanks for watching this episode of Southern Rock Insider. Please hit subscribe and click the notification bell so you won't miss a single episode. If you have any questions or comments and suggestions for future episodes, please respond below, or you can email us at southernrockinsider@gmail.com. This is your Southern Rock Insider, Chris Hicks, and thanks again for watching.
The Southern Rock Insider.